welcome aboard the Self-Growth Train, a podcast that combines personal stories, opinions, and research in order to better guide you through your self-growth journey. My name is Frances Marie Rivera Pacheco, and I am your tour guide. First, I just want to say thank you for tuning back in for another episode of the podcast. My dear passengers, I know I have been on hiatus for a couple of months, but there's a reason for this, and actually, there's hints around you if you look around my background. Does anything look different? Yes! My room looks different because guess what, my dear passengers? I have my first apartment ever. And this is my new room. This is where I will be recording my new podcast episodes. But this is the reason why I have been not doing the podcast for so long, because in order for me to get this apartment, I had to get 3 jobs, and I had to focus, and I had to sacrifice a lot of my time and a lot of my resources and just a lot of my passion, which is this podcast, in order to make this dream come true. And let me tell you, as much as I have missed the podcast, it was so worth it. It was so worth it, and I am so proud and so happy and so blessed and so grateful for the opportunities that have come my way due to this pause into the podcast. So today's episode is going to be different because it is highly improvised, okay? I realized that today is the last day of the year, and it's also a Tuesday, and I was like, okay, well, God is sending me a sign that I should do a last video of the year, right? So this video is going to be focused on the idea that you are supposed to be where you're at right now and that you shouldn't give up, okay? So as you guys know, the last episode that I posted was about my struggles with suicide ideation, okay? If you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend that you see it, because one of the biggest feedbacks that I've gotten is that it was very raw, it was very honest, but also it made people feel not alone in that a lot of people have felt moments in their lives where they just want to give up. And sometimes when they want to give up, the only rational, and I say this with, parentheses, rational idea is like, well, if I want to give up, then I shouldn't be here, right? And that's not true. I think that for a lot of us, there are going to be a lot of struggles. There is going to be a lot of pain. There is going to be a lot of suffering. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we should give up. That just means that we are being formed to something else. And I know that's kind of hard to see in the moment, especially if right now you're going through that pain, you're going through that suffering, you're going through that struggle. It's going to kind of be hard to imagine, oh, there's a purpose to all of this, right? And I think that's why I want to do this episode, because getting this apartment was, yes, it was definitely a milestone in my life. Because again, like 6 months ago, all I could see myself was dying. And not necessarily wanting to die, but also not wanting to live, right? So 6 months ago, I was ready to give up on everything. Like everything and anything. It didn't matter who was around me, who wasn't around me. I was just living in my pain, in my suffering, in my everyday struggle, and I didn't see a way out, right? And if it hadn't been for my mom making the decision of telling me literally, either you go to the hospital or I'm making you go to the hospital, I don't know where I would be today, okay? So that is very, very important for me to always mention, because I think that growing from the pain can be very scary, but what's even scarier is drowning in that pain, right? So today's episode, I just want to use it as a reminder that everything that is happening to you right this second, as bad as it is, you are going to get through it. You are going to get through it. And part of that is you making the decision to get through it, okay? Part of that is you making the decision for yourself to say, this is enough. I don't need any more of this. I want this to change, so I'm going to change it. And for me, that meant finding a goal that would take time, but that would be achievable, right? So for context, my mom and I had been living together since 2021, but she had already told me that next year she wasn't going to renew the lease. So in my head, I was like, okay, so I need to figure out who can I talk to so we can get an apartment together, right? Because like apartments are super expensive. Like I don't know about you guys, where you guys live or how much the apartments are where you guys live, but let me tell you, Florida is expensive and it doesn't matter where you're at. It is expensive. So I started thinking about it and I was like, well, there's my friend Lily. Maybe I could move in with her. Maybe we can, the both of us, we had talked about it before about moving in with each other. Then I was like, well, if not, I can also move in with one of my friends who needs a roommate. If not, I can just try to find something on my own, but that's kind of crazy because everything is expensive. Like, how am I going to find something on my own? Also, I don't have a job. So, how am I even going to do any of this? And that, my dear passenger, was when I sat down and I said, okay, if I need to find a place, whether it be on my own or with people or moving in with somebody else, I need a job. So what did I do? I went out and I sought a job and I got a job. But this job wouldn't start until a month later. So right now we are in July, right? We're in July. And I'm like, well, in the meantime, my father is like, do you want to come to Puerto Rico? And I'm like, heck yeah, because I mean, let's talk. Who doesn't want to go to Puerto Rico? Okay, like first of all, it's my country. I love it. Second of all, beaches. I love the beach. Third of all, my family. Of course, I want to go to Puerto Rico, but also like I don't have money. And he was like, don't worry about it. I'm gonna pay for you to come. You're gonna come for a week. We're gonna figure it out. Don't worry about it. Just trust me. And I was like, oh, I'm 29 years old and I am depending on my father and my mother, and this doesn't feel good. And I feel like I'm such a failure. I feel like I'm not even an adult. And the whole time, both of my parents are like, shh, don't worry about it. This is the moment for us to step in and help you. Because that's the thing, my dear passenger. I struggle with asking for help. I struggle with accepting help. But what my parents did, and I am so grateful for both of them, what they did was they kind of took the choice away from me. They were like, let me be honest, you're not at a point where you can say no to our help. Let me humble you down to the ground and make it clear that in order for you to move forward, you need me. This is a moment for you to depend on me, not forever, but for a second, for a space in time where I can help you start to build yourself back up so that way in the future you can take care for yourself. And that was a very empowering choice that they made for me because I didn't see it at the time, but I see it now at the end. I didn't see it at the time that their help was necessary. I didn't see that the rest was necessary. I didn't see that the pause in my life was necessary. But now that I'm in the end, all of that had to happen the way it did. I had to depend on my father and my mother. I had to depend on my whole family. And I needed to work on my mental health. Without my health, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, psychological, physiological, whatever, you need health in order to move forward. And so that became my other focus. My focus was I need to get an apartment, so I need to get a job. But in order to get this job, I need to have health. And so that's what I focused on. I focused on starting to go to therapy every single week. I focused on taking my meds the way that I was supposed to, not missing or skipping any of them or telling myself, I don't need them because I feel better. And it's like, no, you do need them. They're helping you. Take the meds. And yeah, I finally started the first job and things were going great. Things were going fantastic. And I'm like feeling great. And I'm talking to my friend Lily and I'm like, hey, let's move in together. And then she's like, actually, I'm moving to Chicago. And I'm like, I'm so happy for you. But also, I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And then in that moment, I was like, wait, I'm gonna have to find a place on my own. I'm gonna have to find a place on my own. Okay, I got this. Let me go back to the apartment complex that I had gone to. And they're like, hey, we see you have a job and you're making some money, but the reality is you need to make 3 times the rent. 3 times the rent with a salaried job that only pays me this amount of money? what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I start praying, and I'm like, God, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? And God tells me, get a second job. And I'm like, okay, that's doable. I'll get a second job. So I get a second job. Things are going well. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling good health-wise. I'm feeling good job-wise, because both my jobs I love. I'm feeling good. Let me go back to that apartment complex. I go back to the apartment complex, and they are like, hey, you're making a little bit more money. I got to tell you, still not enough. What do I do now, God? What do I do? And I go back to praying. I'm like, God, help me. Help me. And he tells me, get a third job. I was like, you gotta be kidding me, bro. 3 jobs? You want me to get 3 jobs? Okay. I'm tired, but I'm gonna get 3 jobs. I get the 3 jobs. I'm loving each and every one of my jobs, and I still do to this day. I love each and every one of my jobs. I'm having the time of my life. I am spending money in the correct way. I am saving money. I am doing things the way that I'm supposed to, and I'm feeling very excited because guess what? I'm making the most money that I've ever made in my life, and hey, now is the time to get my own apartment, right? So let me go back. Let me go back to that apartment that I really, really wanted. And she looks at it and she says, you're making more money than the last time, but I gotta tell you, still not enough. And in that moment, my dear passengers, I was like, God, I don't care what you say. I'm not getting a 4th job. There is no way. And God just said, leave it. Let that place go. That's not it. That's not the place for you. And I wanted to fight with God because I was like, no, God, like this place is so pretty though. Like, look, it got a pool. It has a gym. It has really, really nice like apartment complexes for people that are just a 1-bedroom, 1 apartment. It's like, I know. Just wait. Be patient. So here I am, still doing 3 jobs, still saving my money, not really having anywhere to go other than back to my mom's. Oh, and by the way, my job is an hour away from my mom. Every one of my jobs, every single one of my jobs is an hour away from my mom's. So I was driving 2 hours every day minimum. And I was tired. I'm telling you, by the time I got home, all I wanted was my bed. All I wanted was to rest. And I was like, God, this can't be the life. This can't be the life. And he was like, just stay in there. Just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I was like, all right, bet, whatever. I'm going to do what you want me to do then. And so I kept going. And then one day I was serving, which is one of the jobs that I have. And I get this table of Puerto Rican people. And my boss, she saw me interacting with them, and she was like, oh, are they your friends? And I'm like, no, I just met them tonight. And I'm talking to one of them, and again, like, we're really vibing. We're really getting along with each other. And she was like, we should hang out sometime. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could. And she said, well, what things do you like to do? I'm like, well, I used to like to go out. I used to like to do all of this stuff. But, like, recently, I don't do anything because having 3 jobs, I really don't have any time for myself. And she goes, hold up. You got how many jobs? And I was like, I got 3 jobs. And she's like, are you good? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm trying to find an apartment in this area. And it's kind of hard because they expect you to make 3 times the rent. And my jobs are not enough for that. She goes, have you tried my apartment complex? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, there's an apartment complex. And they have what I think it's called income. I forgot what it's called, but it's like income regulated, I guess is what it's called. And I was like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she's like, go try my apartments. You'll see. Go try my apartments. And I'm like, okay, I'll go try your apartments. I come in. The lady's looking at everything that I have brought her. I brought her all my paychecks and everything. And I was like, okay, I need to make 3 times the rent. I don't know how much rent is here, but I need to make 3 times the rent, 3 times the rent. She looks at what I'm doing. And she looks at me and she goes, I think you're making more money than you're supposed to. And I'm like, how is that possible? I have 3 jobs and you need me to make 3 times the rent. And she's like, no, not here. Here we need you to make 2 times the rent. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, yeah, let's just fill out that application and see what happens. And when I tell you, my dear passengers, I filled out the application today And not even a week later, I got the call saying that I had gotten the apartment. Not even a week later, I got the call saying, congratulations, you've gotten the apartment. My dear passenger, that day will forever be ingrained in my brain because that day was like a full of emotions. I was sad. I was happy. I was sad because I was grieving all of the time that I had thought I had wasted. All of the time that I had focused and I had worked on myself that I thought I had wasted. I was crying because I was happy. I mean, look at all this time that I spent working towards it and now I achieved it, right? I was also crying because I was scared. This is the first time that I'm going to be living alone. Like, what if I fail? What if I don't make enough money? What if I suddenly, after learning how to save money and how to do better with money, forget and become like super irresponsible? And I was like, okay, well, that's not real fear. That's just like your mind playing games with you. I was feeling all of the emotions, but the emotion that I felt the most was pride. I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of myself for how far I had come in just a short amount of time. I'm talking about 6 months of a mentality switch. But technically, 4 months of working. 4 months of working my ass off to pay off for that goal that I had given myself. Like, how powerful is it that it can take you less than a year to make life changes in your life? Each one of the jobs that I had prepared me with money, prepared me with patience, prepared me with dedication, and prepared me with motivation to get to the point that I am today. Each one of my jobs allowed me to save up the money that I would need in order to move into my apartment and be able to pay not just for the prorated rent, but for the rent of the next month and also a little bit more towards the month that came after. Not only that, each one of my jobs made it easier for me to get accustomed to the busy lifestyle that was now coming my way. Because here's the thing. Technically, I don't need my 3 jobs anymore, but again, I love each one of my jobs and I have been able to balance each one of them so that way I am not exhausted from each one of them. And I gotta say, my dear passengers, I've been speaking a lot about God, and I know this is not a Christian podcast, but I give credit where credit is due, okay? And for me, God has been amazing. God has been very giving. God has been very eye-opening. And God has been very blessful. He has been blessing me from the moment that I was born. But this year in particular, He has blessed me with so many opportunities and so many things happening in my life that now that I'm at the end, I'm able to say, thank you. Thank you for the suffering. Thank you for the pain. Thank you for the struggles. And again, not everybody's going to get to the same point that I'm at, but I'm there. And because I'm there, I have to say it. I needed to go through all of that to be able to give myself the self-worth that I deserve, the self-love that I deserve, and also the self-opportunity of a lifetime that I deserve. And all this comes from the pain. All this comes from the suffering. And all this comes from the struggle. And I'm sorry, but I'm telling you right now, none of this would have happened. None of this would have motivated me as much as it did with all of the things that happened this year. Trust me, I don't want to go through it again. I don't recommend it to anyone. But I will say every single thing that happened this year needed to happen in order for me to get to the point that I am today. And I am blessed, grateful, and thankful that I'm here. So I leave you with this message. Whatever you believe in, whomever you believe in, please hold on to them. Please set goals for yourself. Please work towards those goals where you're at right now. Do not give up on yourself. Whatever is happening in your life, I'm sorry you're going through it. I will be praying for you. I will be praying that it goes as smoothly as possible. But I'm also praying that you find the strength, the motivation, and the dedication to get out of that place. Because wherever you're standing in right now is an opportunity for you to propel yourself forward to a better future. So please, please, please take where you're at right now and keep moving forward. Don't give up. You have a purpose. Do not give up. Keep going. Well, until the next time, dear passengers, safe travels. Bye!